Being a Christian is not some inward spiritual enlightenment journey. It's about serving other people. We love others because Jesus loved us first. Today, we close out our series talking about the final 3 habits: evangelism, serving others, and giving. Join us as we talk about it. Welcome back to another episode of the Morning Manna Podcast. I am Bryson, your host for today, and I'm joined by the brave, the bold, Dr. Carlo Serrano.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we're joined by the wise and the patient, Anna Wiggins.
I like that description.
I thought it was good.
Tracks.
Very nice, thank you.
Normally I make
that.
fun of everybody else, but I feel like you guys, I don't need to make fun of you. We're all friends here. And also, no Nick and no Chris today. So like we get to party. This is gonna be a 6-hour long episode. We're gonna have fun. We have games. We have food. No, I'm just kidding. We don't.
This is Dr. Serrano. It's going to be efficient.
Yeah, it was a very.
So we do not need 6 hours.
Yeah.
6 hours. There's no Chris.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's no Nick. And there's no Jeff.
That's
it will
true,
not
yeah,
be
yeah.
6 hours.
This will be a 15-minute, very succinct and very structured podcast where we will say what needs to be said and then we will end. But before we get to that fun, structured part, let's go to our, I won't say junior producer because that's demeaning.
But you just did.
Anyway, there's producer Todd. What do you have for us today?
Listen, hey, it's great to be back on here as the producer, not junior producer. I do have an icebreaker for you guys to get going, and I truly believe we all have something in this vein. So check it out. We have this question. When you get to heaven, Bryson, that's assuming you get there. I know the other two are
bold statement.
Being sanctified. When you get to heaven, what is one question you are going to ask God? Like, for example, one of my questions is going to be, what purpose do mosquitoes have on Earth? Like, God, why did you create those annoying, awful insects?
I can see the blood rushing to your face as you get angry.
Yeah, I'm thinking about them.
Yeah.
Or it could be something, you've seen in the Bible, you've read in the Bible, and you're just like, God, what were you thinking? What is it?
That's interesting. Do you guys have any that come to mind? I do have one. Now you're going to have to follow me down a slight conspiracy rabbit hole.
Let's hear it.
Oh, conspiracy.
Okay,
Great.
not really conspiracy.
You've got me. Let's go.
So I'm not going to ask the aliens question. But I am very interested in a reoccurring thing that comes up in stories about aliens, about the Men in Black. I know this is a movie. I know we've all seen Men in Black, but on multiple accounts, depending on whatever, there have been people who have been visited by men in black suits who essentially have the same relationship. This is different categories of events that happen. And I'm like, it's happened enough on many different podcasts I've listened to, random stories, whatever, that I'm like, all right, Lord, just let me backdoor. I know this is insignificant. We could talk about mosquitoes or whatever, or dinosaurs,
You have a really
whatever.
strange algorithm.
I do.
Yeah.
I've never heard those stories.
I'm just saying, if you've never been down the rabbit hole.
I've heard enough of those stories to say this is a recurring theme.
I was listening to a podcast that my wife listens to, and it's like a storytelling. It's the one with Dwight Schrute, whatever his name, Rainn Wilson. Yep. He leads one. It's like storytelling, and someone had like another Men in Black story, and I was like, I'm just saying, it sure would be interesting. So if I was like, Lord, hey, clue me in, Men in Black, and he goes, yeah. I was like, whoa. All right.
There's some stories in Genesis. You're like, was that them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, I'm not. Okay. I'm not thinking they're like this eternal species. I'm just thinking are there guys who the cleanup crew, Men in Black?
That's a lot. I was with you about halfway there.
Yeah.
And then my literal brain checked out.
Nope.
I'm just
I'm
saying,
out.
just one, give me a 30-minute YouTube rabbit trail, or even just if you're really, really bored, then look it up. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, my very literal intellectual brain wants to just argue with Todd about the premise of that question because it's such a theologically flawed question.
Very good.
When I get to heaven, well, that's a theologically problematic question. What does that even mean? When I get, the Bible tells me what I'm going to do when I'm in front of God. So when is all of this time to ask questions? I don't know. But I'll play the game, right?
Yeah.
If I could talk to God about something
and
ask him, I would ask him to teach you about the way the brain works, the reticular activating system, which allows you to remember things. So you see a blue car, all of a sudden it looks like everyone has a blue car. That's why you think there's all these Men in Black things, because your brain has this new category.
I'm not saying
that was free. No.
No,
Take it.
come on, man.
Be
I'm not not saying that
That's your
I've seen
question
Men in
for
Black.
God.
Be
I've
blessed.
never been visited. I'm just. Okay,
I'm not
whatever.
saying that
So the
I'm.
question is why you got left out.
Yeah, I'm not at all. I'm not at all saying that I'm God, but I can save you some time. Don't wait to heaven. I'll just answer the question for you. Here's why it seems like that.
I changed my
hours.
question. Why did you make Carlo the way he is?
Yes, yes, that's
much better.
That's really what I would say. Like I would say, what's the deal with cats? Not that I'm not a cat person, but why are they the way that they are to make people
question.
not want to be a cat person? And I really would feel some kind of way about, did we have to have the cockroaches? Like,
I knew you were
very
going to
good.
go cockroaches.
like,
I knew.
yeah.
like for real. Do we have to have that? I really do not understand.
See, this is a complete joke, but I think there could have been, again, complete joke, but I think there could have been a mistranslation. The serpent in the Garden of Eden. I think it was
was a
actually
cockroach.
it was a
No.
feline. It was a cat, house cat.
Oh.
Like
Yeah.
absolutely, there's no
He's
other
never met
animal.
my cat. That's whatever.
No other animal on Earth that could be that deceptive other than a cat.
I'm telling you,
Full
there's-
send.
Interesting.
But they're blatantly deceptive.
Exactly.
They're not, yeah, I wouldn't say that they're
Like
deceptive. They're
the
just
serpent was sneaky.
yeah.
Okay.
I did see a funny like it was
Thanks.
an audio diary of a cat talking about all the different times they've tried to like covertly murder their owner. And it's like, oh, I was trying to walk through my owner's legs while they were walking down the stairs. Attempted murder was not successful. I was like, yeah, that's pretty.
Checks out.
I spend way too much time with little children. And so my question is, they ask you deep theological questions. And they stump you all the time. But then sometimes they just make you laugh. And so, God made all these animals. He made people. So in the garden, before there was sin, when their digestive systems worked, did things smell? Or what did they smell like? And if they didn't smell or they smelled good, like what changed? Something in our bodies or like in our nose or the food or like.
Is this what you would ask, or is this what you heard a kid ask? Are you
I think-
channeling
It
one of
was-
those
you
kids?
know-
The kids asked the question and she goes, you know what?
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Because that's
I
what I'm
think-
imagining.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it would make him laugh.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if I get to ask any question, because there's
Yeah.
all the questions that would make me cry aren't going to matter.
Yeah, like,
I mean,
they've been
there's
answered.
just like
Like
this,
a lot of that.
in
Yeah,
this moment of like, it's all before you, right?
yeah.
So like, what's going to make you laugh? And did this make you laugh when this like, there's some funny stuff
Yeah.
you
There's
did.
actually some funny foreshadowing in your question here because our morning or our Manna Mailbag is actually a
Yeah.
question that was submitted from a 9-year-old.
Yep.
Okay. So
through
like,
through
I
a
mean, it's
parent
along
who
the lines
commented
of
like,
Thank
my
you.
9-year-old asked me
Yeah.
this question.
I was gonna say.
So stay tuned for the Manna Mailbag because that is a question
I mean,
and I really like it. Okay.
I'm finding Adam and Eve and
Yep,
like,
he
did
got
y'all
it.
have belly buttons? And if you didn't, when you had Cain and Abel, like, did you think you broke it?
yeah.
I go, oh no.
Those are the appropriate
Right?
rabbit hole questions.
Yes.
Like that's what I want
What are you
Bryson
saying?
to be. No.
You're a man dressed
Not
in black right now.
saying
Are you
anything.
one of them?
Yes, indeed. I'm trying to deflect so that
Yeah.
You- yeah,
I'm
yeah.
on to you. Okay.
yeah,
I'm
that's
kind of
it.
looking across, just like
I'm
looking.
trying to deflect because you're outing me here in public. Our millions of viewers.
Yep.
Anyway,
Cool. All right.
Awesome. All right, all you guys listening out there, I know you have some questions of your own, so comment down below and we will choose our favorite one next week and shout you out, hopefully. I do want to go back to the top comment of last week, and I want to preface this, and yeah, Bryson, you're feeling this already.
I am.
And I really hate to do it, but it's
seem a
actually
little
from
tense.
at
talk about it.
Nicholas Ertel. I don't know if you can figure out who that is.
yep.
Plan this so that he would still be on the show
Yeah,
this
I think
week?
he's genuinely trying to show care,
Did
but it
he
just hurts me.
like build all these accounts so that he could like it or something?
That is
Okay.
very
We
possible.
choose it. Todd chose this one.
Oh,
I
you just
did too, yeah.
Oh, so this is your doing.
No, it's
It
Nick. We
really
can
is.
definitely blame
Just
this
say
on
the
Nick.
comment. Let's
Okay.
just get it over
Let's
with.
go.
So with the the NFL playoffs happening and all the championship games,
Indeed.
all that stuff. So we were watching those last week, and some of them turned out well for some people, some did not. So at Nicholas Ertel's comment is, well, this episode did not age well. R.I.P. Bears and Texans. Get well soon. Producer Bryson.
Soon has not happened yet,
No.
in case you guys were wondering.
Yeah, it's
Soon
like
has not happened.
Jesus is returning soon.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
kind of soon.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
There's a time
I
of
don't know
grieving.
when it'll happen.
Nope.
Yeah.
There's a time of grieving.
not
So
exciting.
It will happen.
It will.
You will be okay.
I was going to be wearing a Bears jacket today. if
I
they had won.
listened to that episode this morning actually, and I had no idea what was happening in NFL world. So
You're welcome.
I'm so sorry.
We brought you up to speed.
It's okay.
so now you can help
Yeah.
him grieve.
Yeah.
Right? So there it
People
is.
kept saying Bryson is just a game. It's like, yeah, it is just a game that I will be thinking about constantly until next season. No problem. It is just a game. Wow.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Well, even if you have a great next season, you're still going to think about this one because it's the one that.
Not if we win the Super Bowl. I'll think it's just a story.
Now you're talking crazy stuff. Hold on.
Okay, there were some people. Don't do this to me right now. There were some people saying, "Hey,
close.
their choice."
Fake
Sorry, Todd. Keep going.
No, you know you're good.
Your face is legitimately, your face is getting red.
I mean, it's been
Just
15
little
years
bit of
since
color
I've
right
seen
here.
them in the divisional round. 15 years. And,
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, let's help Bryson grieve a little bit from what happened last week. But stay with us to the end of the episode for the Manna Mailbag. We would love to hear more from you guys. So if you have questions or comments or anything like that, we will look at them all and we'll see which ones we can bring up and the questions that we ask. But we got a good one. Bryson and Anna really alluded to the question. It's from a 9-year-old, very wise, very good question.
Yeah.
I'm super
So
pumped
stay
for it.
tuned
Yep,
for the
stay
end
tuned.
after the meat and
There you
potatoes.
go.
But
I'm excited.
you guys ready to jump into
do
it?
Let's do it.
Let's do
All
it.
right. Well, we are in the last part of our series, Firm Foundations. We're talking about the last 3 habits: evangelism, serving others, and giving.
Yeah.
Super excited about it. I have some preliminary questions before we start diving into each of these habits. The past 2 weeks, that's a typo, 3 weeks, we've covered a lot of ground. Just to remind everyone, we've talked about the Bible, prayer, worship, fellowship, accountability, and forgiveness. But one small thing we've interwoven into all of these messages is this idea of the individual and the collective and some of these disciplines and everything. Can you just remind us what that means for some of these disciplines to have both an individual and collective focus?
Yeah, when we use that language, we're speaking to the way being a part of the body of Christ, part of the church, works. So Jesus saves us individually and places us into this collective, this family called the church. So we were not made to do life alone. So we don't want to discount the idea of a relationship with Jesus. But in Western Christianity specifically, there's been a strong emphasis the last 60, 70 years on your personal relationship with Jesus. And what that produces is a type of Christianity where I don't need to go to church. I don't need to be around other people because it's just my relationship with Jesus, this private individual thing. Of course, we know that's birthed out of Western thinking, that's birthed out of Enlightenment thinking, individualistic thinking. Most of the world, by the way, does not operate that way. Most of the world thinks in terms of family, the collective, people, how my part interacts with your part. And so at Manna Church, when we talk about individual and collective, we're really talking about the same coin and the necessity of both of these sides. So every one of these disciplines, every practice has a component that is individual that then feeds into the collective, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes plenty of sense. I think that is it's an interesting. Funny enough, I did not know you were going to say what you were going to say. I figured it was somewhere, but actually in the cold opener, which you guys were not in here when I recorded, the opening statement is Christian life is not an internal spiritual enlightenment journey, which can be challenging in our way of thinking of like, oh, it's just a me thing. God's here for me, and then that's just it. But obviously, from the 3 things we're about to talk about today, that's not really the case. And all of what we've talked about in the past couple weeks, that is not really the case. There's definitely an active portion. But one note, when we were, and as you introduced the message, you introduced this idea of obedience being a foundation. And I love this. And you interweave it into every single section as you talk about these disciplines as if obedience is the foundation then. But can you just talk about like the importance of obedience and what you really mean by that? Yeah,
well, I don't want to speak for Anna, but I know we both grew up in church. So that concept of obedience and obey has had different levels in our lives. For me, and again, I don't want to speak for you, but I assume as our parents journeyed through their faith, how obedience is processed, definitely bled back onto our understanding of obedience for sure. Remember, we started the series with everything we're doing flows from being. So being always comes before the activity and what we do. So we love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. So our love for God is why we practice these disciplines, these practices. I think with these final 3, where obedience is amplified even more is because you can make the argument from the scripture that unlike these other foundational principles, the 6 that we've talked about, the final 3, I think we can draw an even straighter line to, we're actually doing this because he said so, like full stop. And active obedience, allegiance to Jesus, he's the King, the Lord of my life, means I'm going to be about these specific things. And so obedience is foundational. I'm doing this because I love the Lord. I get to do this. I get to serve him. And that then is my motivation for practicing these habits. It's not fame. It's not trying to earn anything. It's not trying to impress other people. It's definitely not trying to impress God. It's really about, I just want to be obedient and follow after him.
Yeah, I think obedience is the greatest demonstration of my trust in him, and that he is who he says he is, that I can trust him, and that I do trust him. I've just personally, in the places in the last year, God has been so after me on any place of rebellion, any place of, and really rebellion, not being in the, I openly want to disobey God, but in rebellion that works itself out in, I don't trust that he's going to work this out in a way that's going to be comfortable for me or good for me, or I'm going to take this into my own hands, and I'm going to find my way of doing this. And so he just keeps taking me back to, why is it that you feel like you have to do this your own way? Yeah. What's at the core of that? And it's either that I trust that he is good.
Right.
And if he is, and if I trust that he's my provider, and if I trust that he really does, I mean, some of the stuff that we're going to get into, he says, believe that I reward those who love me, that I have this for you. If you believe that stuff, then you'll do this stuff. So if you're not, and something in you doesn't want to obey, there's something that fundamentally doesn't believe I am God.
Yeah.
I really like something that you touched on there, because I think sometimes I also grew up in church, and that sort of environment where it was like obedience kind of had a sting to it, It's like, because it did always feel like when we're saying, hey, you need to be obedient, you need to obey, that it felt like I was being accused of willful rebellion or defiance, when there's sometimes where it's like, hey, when I'm hungry, I kind of get mad. And it feels weird to say like, oh, I'm disobeying God because I get frustrated at what seems like dealing with our emotions and dealing with some of our reactions to stuff. It's like, how do I put that in the bin of something that the Lord needs to deal with me? I need to submit and obey. And I was like, that's hard for me. But there is like, it's aligning ourselves with him. And it is those simple things. It doesn't mean that you're like, oh, you're an awful person who's just maliciously trying to go after the Lord. But I think that's an interesting, I like how you said that.
Yeah. John says in 1 John, if you, or Jesus even says this too, if you love me, you'll obey my commands, and my commands are not burdensome. He says that in John, right? If you love me, you'll obey my commands doesn't mean here's how you prove that you love me, by obeying my commands. What he's saying is, if you love me, this is what's going to happen.
Right. It's the overflow.
The overflow.
And there's a key there. He says, my commands are not burdensome.
My commands are not burdensome.
So if obedience feels burdensome, there's something off in our equation, and it's not what we're supposed to be doing, not what he's asked us to do, but it is often the heart underneath that.
Yeah. Which is why the series has these bookends. So we started 30,000 foot view, this love for God, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And before we get into those final three disciplines, we're going to unpack, wait a minute, obedience is the foundation of evangelism, of service, and of giving.
Now, before we jump into those, I have one more question of obedience, because even as you guys are talking, one of the things that I find, let's just take reading the Bible. We would say that is a good way. Obey God, meditate on his word, search it out. There are some times where I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I just don't. And there's this sense of like, my heart is not welling over with this love for Jesus that I'm going to go and read his word, and it's all of that. So it's like the cynical side of me wants to say, do I wait for my heart to get there before I start doing the right thing? I know your answer is no, but I do want to understand, how do we, it should be out of an overflow of obedience, but sometimes I just don't feel it. So how do we reconcile that? Do we wait until we feel like in our heart, we feel the love before we actually start doing it?
You definitely don't want to follow your feelings anywhere. They're usually going to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
I'll go back to a couple of weeks ago when we had this conversation about a dry season. This is one of those things that I think, as you are pursuing the Lord more and more and more, and obviously not saying that Pastor Bryson doesn't pursue the Lord and love the Lord. I just think as you grow deeper in the walk with the Lord, that feeling where there's a tension between my feelings and doing what I know is going to bring me closer to him, it really starts to diminish. That becomes a less and less thing. For me, I wake up in a reality of I don't understand how to function without spending time. It's not because I'm holy or because I'm religious. It's just that's the walk that I have. So now I can use that example for other things. Like I don't feel like going to church today. I don't feel like, there's work stuff and there's some of that stuff that's related, but those inner discipline, walking with Jesus practices, I think the closer we are, the more we keep just pursuing him. So we don't follow our feelings.
Yeah.
I think we follow the path that's going to get us to him the quickest. So when my feelings are, I don't want to, I know that's kind of a flag for me of I need to get to where I can find Jesus quickly. During this 21 days of prayer and fasting, I have found myself stopping something I was listening to, totally innocent, innocuous, educational, and putting on worship music because my soul knew you need to get closer to where I am right now. And I'm not there, but you're probably going to access me quicker if you change your heart posture. And I think spending time in God's word is the primary way for us to get quickly into where he's going to always meet us in his word.
Yeah. Obey anyway. And as you obey, he often reveals, at least in my walk, he reveals what it was that was resisting him. So I don't think wrestling is wrong. I think that's a part of our walk with him, but I want to wrestle with him, not against him. And it's often as I just go, all right, I'm obeying because you said to do this. I don't feel like doing this, but especially with fasting. My goodness. I love what God does through fasting, but when we're getting ready to get into it, I hate the idea of fasting. Nothing about it. In fact, since we've been doing these the intensives, and we do the 3 weeks, but right in the middle you do the liquid only. The latter half is harder than the beginning for me. It's like, but I'm after something, and he's after something. So obey anyway. Yeah. And obey quickly as possible. And he, every time, reveals what it was that was resisting him. And then you find the joy in it because you've met him in the midst of it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for clarifying. I was looking, what I was going to mention was the quote that you have written in the notes here. It starts with listening in our hearts, then shows up in our actions. Yep. And we so often associate in our hearts as a feeling thing, right? Like a heart is, that's where all the emotions and stuff like that. And it is, I think it does remove the pressure off of someone like me, where I am kind of goals oriented, and there's sometimes where it's just an act of my will, where it's like, am I showing less love to God because I don't feel that warm and fuzzy, when it's like, that's obedience is that choice, and it is an exchange. Like I think that is helpful because people do take it as an emotional thing. I think it locks people up. Like, I'm not feeling the warm and fuzzies, so I feel like does God think I love him less because that. Yeah.
No, when your kid obeys, even if they obey with a little bit of attitude, you can correct the attitude, but sometimes and sometimes not when it's your kid. It's like when they're older and they're adults. You've asked them to do something, they're like, "Arr." You know what, the kitchen still got cleaned. And so at the heart of this thing, like, okay, their heart's still mine. It's all right. And the next time it was a little easier. Sweet. I don't think God's wagging a finger.
Right.
He knows what he's leading us to.
Sweet. Well, all right. Well, let's jump into it. We're going to start with evangelism. It's the first thing we talk about. Just give me basic definition. What is evangelism?
It is proclaiming the good news, the gospel. Now, what is the gospel? Come back next week for another podcast.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Bonus content coming soon.
That's a big. It literally is sharing the good news of Jesus.
Great. So one thing we talk about, evangelism starts with our story.
Yeah, right? that's first step, week 1.
Right, and it starts with my story. So when we say being a witness, it's sharing the story. That's how it begins. But I've always been curious, how soon after being saved and receiving the gospel can I really begin evangelizing? Like, what degree do I have to have before I'm allowed to start sharing the good news of Jesus?
I have a controversial take. You ready?
I'm so ready.
I think you can share the good news before you have even responded to the good news. I think you can share the good news on your way to responding to the good news. I don't think there's a time limit. on that. If you're talking about, here's the story of Jesus and how it's impacted and changed me, how could I then share that if I haven't responded to it? I mean, I've had instances of people who, were they fully following Jesus? No, but they knew, man, there's something there's something in these people. There's something about this Jesus I'm intrigued with. So I think there's a way for sure that you can share the gospel, evangelize in any one of those shapes. Obviously, most of the time it's going to happen after you have responded to the gospel. Sure. My point of that big, exaggerated hot take is I don't think there's a limit. God's not limited by time, and this is one of those things where we shouldn't put those limitations either, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you guys expand a little bit on what just even witnessing means, how you go about? I know we're basically going to tread over first step, week 1. I mean, that's what we're going over, but let's talk about it a little bit. What does it mean to formulate and recognize what's happened in your story and share it with other people?
So many times it starts with what God's done in your own life. So often you're in conversation, and this is kind of relational. I am not talking about kind of evangelism explosion, going out on the streets, some stuff that we do, serve days, those kinds of things where you're looking for opportunities with kind of a no relationship. This is a cold call, but I'm going to look for a way to present the gospel. You can speak to that if you want to do that. I know Jordan's talked about that. Pastor Jordan Gill's talked about that a lot on here, especially when we're talking about evangelism and outreach. But evangelism is sharing your story. But so often, the same way Jesus meets us at our points of pain and ministers to us, often it's the same way he sets it up where we're in relationship with people, and when they're at a moment of pain or even celebration somewhere where there's shared life and shared experience, they look to you, or you see what's going on and you go, man, I was there, and here's what Jesus did for me. And even can I pray for you, or let me share with you, would you like to know where God met me in the midst of that? And that opens the door for sharing what Jesus did for you. It starts with you, but I love this. You said this in the message. It starts with your story, but it always moves to him.
Yep.
And the emphasis is on him. It's not on who I was or where I was, but who he is and what he's doing.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, and that's where that's where I was coming from when I'm like, I don't think it matters where you are in that journey because this is tricky. This is where evangelism gets tricky. I come from a school of church where we use language like leading people to the Lord. How many people did you get saved? Getting someone saved. This idea that I'm responsible for getting them across the finish line, that I'm responsible for their salvation. And I'm like, no, actually, what I'm doing is proclaiming the good news that he is the one that saves. He is the one that changes. Hopefully you're sharing that from a place of he's changed my life and I've responded to it. But I love the picture of someone who's like, I've heard he can change our life, and here's what I have heard. What do you like? I love that idea of you're still pointing people towards Jesus, because ultimately it is about him. But the personal story part matters, right? So we don't want to have these dramatic, long, drawn out, make it all about the negative stuff. I'm guilty about that when I start telling my old story, especially when I'm talking to youth pastors about how I was when I was in student ministry. I can tend to amplify and hype up the dark side of Carlo and almost give glory to that accidentally. Yeah. But that part of the story is important too, because a lot of times people can find themselves in that, your personal story, what God did. And people are worried about, like, sometimes with evangelism, they think I don't have the words to say. What do I say? I don't want to get it wrong is usually one of the flags people fly. And what I love about your story is it's your story. Unless you're lying, you can't get that wrong. You can't mess that up. Yeah. Because it really is the experience that you had.
Yeah. I think about the first time I think it was last time Jordan was on. Maybe I was on with him or I was hosting or something, but I mentioned the story the first time I went on a missions trip, graduated Bible college and, really excited and, being a Christian for a long time. And I was like, hey, I get to go and share the gospel. And I met someone that was like prime. They were interested. They wanted to hear the gospel, but they didn't know anything about it. And I was like, all right, well, let's start Genesis 1. And, and it was like, it had to have been, I would never, that's one of those replays you don't want to watch after that. And you're like, I don't want to go back and watch that thing. But it was probably a pretty good amount of time. And she was like, oh, okay, all right. And then Jackie Dodge, shout out, like one of the goats of evangelism and missions and everything, shared what felt like and a completely irrelevant story, very specific. For one, she heard from the Holy Spirit. She felt like she needed to say that. And two, all she did was just essentially the crux of her story was, I was sad, God comforted me, and the Lord is good.
Let's go.
And it was 2 minutes. Jackie cried, she gave her life to Christ, and I sat back like, what was the point of me reading all these books for?
So, so when you get to heaven, you're going to talk to the Lord about the men in black, and in turn, he's going to say, Bryson, why'd you start in Genesis 1? Why didn't you just say, I was lost and Jesus found me so that we could get this lady?
It was so funny because I thought when I went back the next year, I went on a trip and I was co-leading with Jackie and them, and I was like, as I was helping to brief the team on really how to share the gospel, I got to use my example of like, hey, if you're scared of sharing the gospel, it's really easy. He saved you, and he like God saved me, he can save you. And that's like the crux of it. Like he's still good. It was very interesting.
In preaching messages like this, for me, that's the hard part, to get to the other two, because that's just where I want to live. I just want to sit down on the steps and tell the people, you don't understand. I'm not supposed to be here. Like I'm not supposed to be here. And if God can do this with me and I'm here, not that here in preaching is I'm not trying to do that game. I'm just saying it doesn't make any sense that I'm still breathing air, let alone following Jesus. And so just the hope that's in that is powerful. Also, being careful about who's responsible for the salvation piece, I think will set you free when it comes to evangelizing. Because if you think for a second it has anything to do with you, man, we have missed it, right? Back to your individual collective piece. I think the way to really unlock and understand that is to understand it's all about him. Like that's what the Bible's about. That's what this faith is about. It's about giving glory to this great God. We were in a Caribbean island nation doing missions work, helping people with water filters. And we had one day where it was just like no traction. We felt the spiritual warfare. No one, and the team was really down. And a couple of us who'd been there before almost felt like Paul writing to the Galatians, like, who tricked you into thinking that you had anything to do with these people saying yes to Jesus?
Wow.
Who tricked you into thinking that your perfect telling of this salvation message is what we're doing here? Like, no, this is spiritual warfare. Like we're in a battle, and that just changed the whole atmosphere of the team. And we saw some great fruit, still had some hard days, but just everyone felt like they hit this wall, and it was because some people thought, well, if I give the presentation the perfect way, should be the result. Like it's on me, and it's never.
So what if there's nothing that I have to do with it, but we're still saying I'm supposed to share my story, like I'm a part of this? What if I know it all rests on him, do I even have to open my mouth? Do I have to actually, so I'm at a restaurant, kind of feeling prompted, like there's an interaction with the server and feeling like, I think I should pray for this person or talk to this person, encourage them. But you know what? It's all on God anyway. So I'm just going to not. What do you say to that scenario, that person? If it's all up to God, why do I have to be involved at all?
Yeah, because obedience, because he said so, right? Because he said so. Nick Ertel quoted Francis of Assisi last week, and I've since talked to him about this, so I'm not busting out Nick. He was using the quote the way we would use it: preach the gospel, and when necessary, use words. But for far too long, we've taken that way out of the context that Francis of Assisi meant. He didn't mean that there's a silent gospel. He didn't mean that you lead someone to the Lord just by giving them water and being nice to them. And in our natural fleshly tendency to not want to speak out, to not want to be offensive, or to not be embarrassed, really that's what it's honestly more about than being offensive. We don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want to lose, especially Americans. Yeah. We don't want to lose. We want to come out on top. We want to win. We don't want to. Yeah. We want to look a certain kind of way, so we keep it quiet and keep it inside. So that's why we have to proclaim. The Greek word kerygma, preaching, teaching, prophesying, evangelizing, these are all kerygmatic gifts, meaning they involve speaking. Even that word witness, I know we have doubled down on martus and the laying down your life part of that story, but it also has the legal definition of testifying, opening up your mouth and talking about what you have seen. There's that part of it as well too. So
it sounds like opening your mouth and sharing. In some way, it's not optional. in the Christian faith.
Not at all. You have
It's
to.
not an optional part of our walk
You're
with
just,
the Lord.
I love a story Pastor Chris gave years ago of doing a nice work for someone and then really feeling the Holy Spirit tell him, if you don't say who that's in the name of, it doesn't count. You just did a good deed. If you don't tell them that's in the name of Jesus, if you don't tell them about me and who I am, you're just...
You could almost say, if you only do the good work and you don't share them, you're doing it in your own name.
I would agree. I would agree. And you're a good person, and high five.
Todd's like giddy over there.
Yeah.
He's like ready to do jumping jacks. I mean, he's freaking out. That's awesome.
So to make it accessible for people who are struggling with this, and if I was going to list, like, look at the fivefold gifts of ministry that are in Ephesians 4, I would argue myself, evangelism's like the bottom of my skill set.
Right.
Like I've confessed that to people, like, I'm just not really good at that part. And I'm always reminded of, what does it even mean to be good at that part? Just keep sharing your story. Just keep talking about Jesus, because you're not responsible for the results. You're not responsible for someone else's action. So I would just encourage people, talk about what God has done. Yes, the salvation point, and we talk about that in the message, but what about, you said pain points. Hey, I was hurting, and Jesus. Hey, I had a need, and look at God, he showed up. Hey, I was, whatever it is, wherever it is Jesus met you, those are all little on-ramps to introduce somebody to Jesus.
I'll confess, I'm a growth track person. I love growth track, but first step, week 1, the way that we often phrase that, formulating your story, we say, who were you before Jesus? Then what did Jesus do? How'd you meet him? And then who were you after? And I always get stuck because my salvation story is my parents leading me to Christ between 3 and 4 and following him really all of my life, with some moments, but never walking away from him. Really, I thought, I don't have a good testimony. And so when we sit down to write that story, I feel like, I failed because I don't know, I didn't do the testimony part of my life right or something. And the Lord convicted me one time. He said, your testimony is not about your faithfulness to me. It's about my faithfulness to you. That's so, good. Get out of your own way.
Yeah.
But I think that we have a lot of testimonies.
Yeah.
God has done a lot in my life.
Yeah.
So when you say share your story, well, what part of my story do you want to know? Where do God's met me in really deep ways.
Yeah.
In a lot of places.
Yeah.
So it's walking with the Holy Spirit, listening to him, and what is the part of my story you want me to share right now? Because God enters into the middle of our stories.
Yeah.
So if we think about our testimony as only being the beginning, and everything else is after, we miss what he's doing. He enters into the middle of our story. So often the part that we're going to share is going to be somewhere in the middle. What did he do? Let me tell you what he did for me.
Right.
And that, I think, will draw people in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't normally have this much time on a Sunday morning when I'm talking about growth track from the stage. So if I could look through the camera at the windows of your soul, if you think First Step is not for me because I've been a Christian for a while and I don't need to learn how to share my story and everything, incorrect. That's false. Unless you're someone who shares your story and evangelizes, and this is something that you do, hey, don't get stuck not going through First Step because you think, oh, that's not for me, I've leveled up. It's like, I have been a Christian for longer than I haven't been, and I went through First Step multiple times. I mean, how many times have you guys been through it? Like tons of times. And every single time I'm convicted to realize, like, there's more in my story that I need to tell. Because, like, is there any end to what God has done for me? No. So there's no end to what I can share.
And First Step's the 9 healthy habits, which we've talked about a lot. All of them almost.
We will.
This is
you never outgrow
close.
them, and God's always going to take you deeper. So,
Well, speaking of, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. That is all I think this is such a good format to talk about evangelism. But let's talk about serving others. Basic definition. Let's go back to it. Serving others. What does it mean? We talk about serving. We talk about outreach. We've talked about, being on serve teams, all that sort of stuff. But sometimes we can put serving in a box a little bit. Like, bare minimum, what does serving others really mean?
Yeah, that's good. In Growth Track, we say that evangelism equals telling, serving equals showing. So by laying down my right to be right and doing for someone else what I would want someone to do for me, by putting someone else first through my through my activities. That's all ways that I'm putting someone else first and I'm serving them. I'm taking care of them. That looks like a million different ways, and there's so many different options. But at its core, obedience is the foundation. Then service isn't performative. So I'm not serving to get some sticker or star or look at me. I'm serving out of the overflow of my life was changed. And when I needed grace and mercy and forgiveness and all the things, Jesus saved me. And now anyone else who could possibly be in that situation, well, I want them to experience what I wanted and what I needed. And so service kind of flows out of that once. I say saved people serve people. It's just the result of living in the fullness of Jesus has transformed me. So now I get to serve.
That's a sticker we need like on the mirror every day. It's like, start your day remembering this because he served us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like the greatest servant of all.
Yeah.
Now, just to really make sure, because I'm thinking, if I'm the guy who's like, all right, serving others, that looks like the bar is here, give me the dumbest examples from day to day of how I can show my love for Jesus by serving others. Give me some really practical examples in my workplace when I'm walking around. What does it look like?
I'll give you a practical one from my workplace, right? I work at Manna University on the main site of Manna Church, right? So I'm plugging Manna Church more, actually, right? So I told Pastor Chris I'm going to rep Manna Church when it suits me. So as long as there's some cookies and snacks involved for me,
yeah, I got you.
I'm joking. So I have to drive here, about an 8-minute commute in God's third favorite city of Fayetteville, North Carolina. Let's be honest. He probably has some other places because we try him and test him.
Yeah. Podium.
He wants us to be number one, but I think I think we put him to the test here in the All-American city. So I'm commuting. So service starts with, what's my attitude on that road? How am I driving? Who am I recklessly passing? Who did I let in front of me? What was my heart? I'm already doing that just in driving here. Those are legitimate moments that I can choose to let someone else go first. I don't get this right most of the time, but it's something I know for sure. Yeah. That's an easy way. I pull onto this property, depending on what's happening. Usually during the week, there is something being fixed somewhere. Where am I going to park this week? What roof is being fixed? What parking lot? So my attitude and posture again in serving. If it's a Sunday and I'm not preaching, then I have to really wrestle down this idea of service. Everybody wants to be a servant until you treat them like a slave. Everyone wants to be a servant until you treat them like one. So I'm coming here to serve on a Sunday, and I'm not preaching, so I don't get the nice, cool designated preacher spot because we preach at multiple locations. Yep. Now I have to decide, am I going to honor the team and park in the back 40? Because that's what a servant would do. I'm going to give up this spot so that someone else can have a guest can have a better spot. Those are all little moments. And, in the office kitchen, are you cleaning up after yourself? Are you taking out the trash? I mean, those are just super practical in the day-to-day life of a working person of how I can just serve others regularly.
Yeah, I think about it because I'm pretty type A, pretty goal-oriented, always trying to move up, whatever. And there's sometimes where I discount of, I open the door for that person. I'm going to wait for a second. I'm going to let them go. And in my I have to always be kind of moving upwards where the Lord corrects me sometimes no, that's enough. In that moment, considering, hey, that little diligent moment of am I thinking and considering others and helping someone and always looking out where I think sometimes I go, oh, well, if it were me and I were God, that wouldn't count because that's not big enough because I know I'm capable of more. He's not thinking that way. It's obey, serve. It can be something as little as that. And I think sometimes we can make it too hard on ourselves where it's hey, if you're struggling, Lord, I just need to grow and being more selfless and serving others, then it's okay, you have an opportunity right when you walk out of the room that you're sitting in. It's if you're out in public, if you see other people, if other people are present, there's an opportunity to serve them in one way or the other. You touched on the performative aspect. There's a verse that you mentioned here. It's kind of scary. Matthew 6:1, beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. And then he goes on to expand on that in the next 3 verses. But the whole hey, who am I really doing this for? Am I performing? How do we really manage kind actions for the sake of not being seen, not being performative? How do we do that? And also, there's some people who go, I'm not being performative, but they probably are and they just don't know it. How do we upgrade a little bit into, understanding when are we actually being performative and we maybe need to repent a little bit.
God's really good at telling us that. I mean, he is. So a lot of times that verse and the one that says, don't let the right hand know what the left is doing, those are used by people who are like, see, you're not supposed to do good works in front of people, except that he also says, do your good works in front of people so that when they see you, they will glorify your Father who is in heaven. Mm-hmm. So it's not about what it actually is about what you're doing, but it's the posture of your heart. So but God is really good at pointing out our pride. Because if it's all about us, if it's in my name, if it's for my glory, I'm gonna, that's gonna come out. He's gonna know that, and he's gonna reveal that to me. So if I'm in his word and I'm reading Proverbs, and I'm reading a lot about what happens when you have pride, and when you're foolish, and when you're doing things for your own glory and your own gain, and not for his. So if I'm in his word, then when I'm doing those things out of the wrong heart motivation, I'm going to hear his voice, which is going to sound like his word.
That's right.
And it's going to convict me. And then I have the opportunity to repent and move toward him, and I become more like him. So I can serve from the wrong motive, where it's all about me, and still end up growing closer to God because he intervenes and transforms my life. And then the next time I go to serve, I go, man, I get to do this out of the overflow of what he has done for me. Not because I'm earning something, but because the greatest servant of all, Jesus, who was God. I mean, I go to Philippians 2. Mm-hmm. What did he do for us? He who shouldn't have had to do anything for us, didn't have to, shouldn't have wanted to. He humbled himself. He lowered himself. He took on flesh, and he served us. Being obedient, like obedience hurts sometimes. It hadn't hurt us as bad as it hurt him. He went to the cross. So there's nothing that he's asking of us that he hasn't already done and more. And that's going to come out as I serve. It's going to come out because he's going to transform my heart. I'm going to start looking more like him. In fact, that's probably part of what service is about.
Yeah, and that's why we keep going back to this idea of obedience. The greatest command, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So the foundation of my service is my obedience to him.
Right.
Am I going to get that right? Not all the time. Of course not. I'm a human. I'm flawed. And I think there's two things. If I'm wrestling with the question of what is my motive, I would say your next statement should be, thank you, Holy Spirit. Because the fact that I'm even asking the question means I'm probably not dealing with as strong of a pride thing as possible. Really prideful, narcissistic people, even at a clinical level, they don't even know how to ask that question. They are completely blind to their self-centeredness. So even the pause of, that was really prideful. That was really wrong. Even just saying that, I'm walking in victory because I've said it out loud. I just had a conversation with Pastor Ben Goodman yesterday about this very thing. I'm like, here's how I felt about all of these people. And I give it all to him and I say, but at least I know that was wrong. And we're like, air high five.
So God's working.
And we're like, yes, because the Lord's working. Because I can feel all those things and that's real. And I can articulate that in community, not alone, with someone that I can't bluff. And then we can say, you're not supposed to think like that. I know. And that's what God's shaping in us. The other piece of that is regardless of the motive. Paul talks about this when he gets into this baptism debate there. He says, listen, some say I'm on team Paul, I'm on team Apollos. Some do this work for this motive, some say for that motive. And I'm paraphrasing Paul, but he basically says, I don't care what their motive is. Jesus is being glorified.
That's right.
It's pointing people to Jesus. Circle back to evangelism, regardless of where you are. You're pointing someone to Jesus. Paul is saying, hey, that's ultimately the win. So like all of these obedience things, at the end of the day, just serve, just do something. And God makes it easier for us when we're in community. If you are married, you will always have an opportunity to serve. You actually took an oath before God that you're going to put another human being first for the rest of your life. If you have kids, you prayed for them, God blessed you with them, and now guess what? You get to see what it's like on the other side of your prayers, because now the greatest tool of discipleship is going to be raising and serving and giving your life away and on and on and on. Yeah.
Rock on. Yeah, that's awesome. I was hoping we could I could ask a little bit of how God has use serving to impact you, we'll just save that for another time, because this obedience talk, it's serving others, and evangelism is so warm and fuzzy. Now let's talk about what everyone's favorite topic is giving.
Okay.
Let's define giving, and let's leave no room for misunderstanding. I think we don't actually. I would say here at Manna Church, I don't think we really dance around what it's really about. But giving, time, talent, treasure, money, like that's what we're talking about here. So, when we talk about generosity, we talk about it. I think some of the big sticking points that I have seen is there is a feeling like, oh, I have to make this certain amount of money before I can really be generous. Tell me why that is not true.
I love the joke about the guy who was making a certain amount and he was giving faithfully, and then he got a dramatic increase, and he's like, oh man, I just, now that percentage it's just so much I can't give. Pastor, will you pray for me? And the pastor says, Lord, would you bring him back to the level that he feels like he can give? It's like, it's not about how much you have. It's about a heart surrendered to the Lord and obedience. We don't shy away from talking about giving because God has met every single one of us in giving. And I can joyfully talk about where God has met me when I had very little. What you would probably say is nothing. 3-bedroom apartment with 4 people, and I'm, I remember distinctly. So this is kind of going to tithing, because I was raised with that principle.
Yeah,
I knew all about it. I knew about giving, and tithing is not generosity, but it often goes. Is kind of the gateway to, are you going to trust God with your finances? Are you going to trust him with money?
I like that. That's a good touch there.
So I remember growing up that way, and you get a quarter, and mom and dad are like, here's what you do with it, or $1 because it divided evenly.
Yeah.
It's way easier.
2.5 cents. That's a little legalistic.
Right? That's the only reason my parents even started paying us for things, is so that they could teach us the principle of tithing and saving and giving. But when you become an adult, it's where the rubber meets the road. And so I remember listing out, I didn't have a whole lot, but I didn't have much money at all, and listing out the bills and going, well, God, I am literally short what I'm going to tithe. And I think it was also rock. So that's my deficit. To the like that's exactly where my gap is, and saying, well, I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm not going to not give it to you. And that month saw refunds and returns. Like, God brought more than I needed. He exceeded where I was at, and everything that I needed. He supplied it all. And it's one of those things. He says, test me in this. I'm going to show you how good I am and how much you can trust me. So my wallet demonstrates how much I trust him, how much I believe that he does what he says he does, that he is good and he's for me and he's my provider.
Yeah, Matthew 6:24, 25, Jesus says that you can't serve God and money. So a lot of people in church space get weird talking about money, justifiably so. They get weird about it because especially church in America has been very weird about money, and there's abuses, and all of that stuff is true. And yet we don't talk about money as much as Jesus did. We don't talk about money at Manna Church as much as the Bible actually talks about it. Like, we would only do series on generosity and giving and resources and stuff and treasures and what has your heart and who's really the Lord of your life. Like, we would only do series on that if we just decided we're going to be the church that only talks about money. So that's just, we can show you the receipts. No, we don't always talk about it. But the reason we do talk about it, and we just get to the point of, no, yes, of course, time, that's great. Talents, yes, give it back to God. But money, like resources, stuff, because that's what Jesus highlights when he's talking about this war in our heart. It really is our treasure. So the idea of laying up treasure in heaven, that's where all of that stuff is coming from. And in the Sermon on the Mount and in the Sermon on the Plain, so Luke chapter 6, Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7, Jesus uses some kind of line of everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice. There's the obedience part. And he talks about what happens when you live your life like that. And then I love what he says in Luke, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? And then he talks about, what did he say? Well, he said, give, and it'll be given to you. Now, in the context of that passage, of course, he's talking about mercy and forgiveness, but that's not a forgiveness verse with a little bit of money tacked onto it. It's actually, here's how to operate in God's moral economy. Because of everything he has given to me, the least I get to do now is give that back to people. And the promise of God is, I'm going to take care of you. It's going to return. It's not this idea of I'm giving this money so that I get some financial gain and some reward. It goes back to what Anna said earlier. This is the trust. Here's how I'm showing you that I trust you. You've given me so much mercy, so much grace. You've provided for me. Now I'm going to live my life with an open hand, and I'm going to give to advance your causes because I know you're going to take care of everything that I would need.
Yeah.
Yeah, the giving piece goes back to that. If you love me, you'll obey my commands. Your commands are not burdensome. Giving, sometimes when you're starting the process, it feels like taking that step is climbing Everest.
Yep.
It feels like, Lord, that is a heavy burden. But I believe as you take the step of faith and say, I'm going to do what you've set before me, because I'm trusting you, but also you said I could test you. The only way to test it is to actually do it. As I step forward into that, what you begin to realize is that the whole world system that says you have to have enough, you have to provide for yourself, you've got to strive, you've got to keep going, and we're going to demand more from you this whole time, that's really the burdensome thought of money. But when you start living the way that God tells you to live and trusting him with it, that burden begins to lift. It's not that suddenly you have, a massive surplus and suddenly every Christian is rich. Like, we're not preaching that at all. But what you find is that all of your needs are met because God is your provider.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is, I'm glad you guys touched on that, because there is this, it is a delicate balance, even the way we talk about it, of generosity does not guarantee return on investment, even the way that we think. If I
Not
give
here.
right,
Not always here.
Yeah.
Always eternally.
Always eternal.
Always eternal. Yeah, and I think that is, we have seen that weaponized in a way that is not true, of what it means for it to be here.
Yeah, and thinking of these foundational habits, remember the habit we're talking about is giving. Generosity is a part of giving. And so that's where that important distinction is made. Giving includes tithes, includes offering, there's a service piece of that, right? My time and my talent and all of that.
Yeah.
The posture is giving. God loved us so much that he gave. And so that's the motivating factor behind. We're going to be people who give. We're going to be givers. Yeah.
That's a great, because I was going to ask about a generous posture towards others, which that is just kind of what we've talked about all day. I mean, it is like the time, talent, treasure. Are you able to provide needs? Are you being generous towards others? Are you always kind of arrows pointed out? That encompasses what it is, and giving is all of those aspects. I think obviously where we find it to be most challenging, also because, I mean, you can mark it down in a checkbook of how challenging it can be, and going, ugh, I don't use checkbooks. I'm 25. I mean, come on. Let's be real. Like, I don't even know. Never owned one, whatever.
But I can tell you all the digital accounts and how you send money back and forth. And
that's definitely a challenge that faces so many people, and there isn't mystique around it, because you're right. He talked about it. Giving is
a lot.
Yes.
I cannot stress that enough. Pick whatever thing out there in YouTube land, whatever thing you think Jesus was always on about. He talked about money more than that.
Yeah.
Love, mercy, being kind to people, I'm telling you, he talked more about resources, money, your heart, your possessions, who's the Lord of your life.
Yeah.
He talked way more about that stuff.
When you put him first in your money, it's going to change the way you live and everything else.
Yeah.
I know we're going to do a stewardship series coming up, and that's good. And this isn't a giving message, but like, really, it's one of those things that just kind of clicked. It's like, wait a second, if I give this, what he's telling me to do, and if I live generously in this way, I'm not going to be able to do all the subscriptions that I want and all of the takeout that I want, and I might have to make a sacrifice here and there. And you go, you know what, actually maybe following him, and it's not that any of those things are inherently sinful, but sometimes it's the pursuit of more. And it's also a life out of balance. And so when we put him first in our finances, it really does change the way that we live and what we're going to be able to do. So you live differently, and you realize, oh, this is simpler. There's more joy in this. There's more life in this. And I've got more people around me that I can share the good news with.
And it is a real war in your heart.
It is.
I put God first in my finances.
100%.
I give. And as Anna was talking, I wanted to say, stop talking about my subscriptions.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
just it's a real thing that we
Yeah.
for sure battle with. Ultimately, Manna Church has a vision to change the world.
Yeah.
And so if our foundation is our finish, as I was thinking about this message, I'm thinking of, well, what is the finish for Manna Church? Well, the finish for Manna Church is a changed world, and we only get to that finish line by being a church without walls. And that's what evangelism and service and giving allow us to do. How do we take all this good individual collective work that God's doing through Bible, through worship, through fellowship, accountability, through forgiveness, all that great stuff God is doing there, how do we take it outside? I think it's through these final 3 disciplines.
Yeah, we I want to pull this back to, there's people, it's New Year, New Year's resolutions. We did this firm foundations. We're talking about basics of everything. So I want to give you guys a chance to encourage a certain type of person who's probably listening to this podcast. We've talked for weeks about habits. We've talked about, encouragement, saying all these things. There's probably someone who's listening who's like, oh man, I forgot to read my Bible. I didn't pray. I haven't showed generosity. And there's this sort of like, I wanted to start off the new year right. And I'm sitting here listening to these messages and podcasts, and I'm realizing I've completely flubbed it. Like this was the year I was going to do it, and I failed. It's, the 22nd as of recording this. Sorry if you thought that we'd, record this on Sunday. But like
Nobody thinks that
yeah,
anymore.
yeah. But what would you say to that person?
His mercies are made new every morning. You don't have to wait until next year to start over. You don't have to wait until Monday to start over. Like, you don't even have to wait until tomorrow to start over. When the Holy Spirit moves on your heart, move toward him. He's going to meet you there. So you didn't read your Bible for the last week? Okay. Read it now. Like, open it. Go to the Bible app. Like, take a step toward him.
Yeah.
You're not going to develop a habit if you don't start.
Right.
So where do you want to be? We can get overwhelmed with all of the things that we need to do. The truth is, he does the work. We do need to put in some effort. Like, we need to move toward him. There's action on our part. We're not going to grow in him. We're not going to mature in him in a healthy way. We're not going to mature because we say growth doesn't happen without intentionality, but actually some things just grow with minimal effort.
Yeah.
But maturity doesn't.
Yeah.
Maturity happens with intentionality. So take steps toward him and just take the next step. Start with the next thing. Don't look at all of it. Once you take the first step, the others start to get more exciting.
Yep.
Because you get more of him. You get to experience more of him. So just take the first step.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think of one of my favorite Dr. Mark Batterson quotes, it's never too late to be who you could have been. So I think as long as you have breath, God's not finished with you. I'm not trying to be preacher cliche. These are just foundational truths that you have today. You can move forward. You can start today. What Pastor Chris has taught us in this series, right? We're measuring gains, not gaps. Gains, not gaps. So it doesn't matter what that distance is. Today's the new day. We start from zero, but we have to do something.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to evangelism, you have to open your mouth. Eventually, you have to say something. You have to put someone else first. You have to give. You have to act. And so, I would just encourage people to take that step.
And God's not standing in the back with his arms crossed, scowling at you, going, "Look at how far you've missed the mark." He's not. He's standing in front of you, inviting you to come toward him.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, what an awesome series. I feel very honored to be able to close this thing out, and I appreciate your guys' time. We have one more segment we talked about at the end of the Icebreaker, which was years ago. That feels
is it
like
time?
Yeah, it is. Let's hear it. Todd, welcome back.
It's so good to be back. Are you all ready for the Manna Mailbag?
We are.
We are.
Yes.
Awesome.
That's why I call on you.
That desk doesn't look as tiny when he's behind it.
I know.
It's tiny desk when you're behind it, though.
Yeah.
That's because he's 7 feet tall.
Accurate.
Yeah, pretty close. And I am not. We talked about it earlier. So the Manna Mailbag today,
Okay.
yep, I'm going to do it, comes from BMC 7388. And they wrote on behalf of their 9-year-old. So the 9-year-old asks this question: how did Jonah get oxygen when he was swallowed by the big fish?
That is a great question.
So it is a great question. I want to mention something else that actually came from producer Bryson. his response to that question was like, I love how the swallowed by a big fish is not the problem. It's the oxygen that's inside.
Yeah,
that's
like
the
that.
problem.
We can just gloss over
Yeah.
the swallowed by big fish. Easy. Got it. On top of it. But man, that oxygen is really what we're worried about.
Yeah, not the like digestive juices that would have like
Nope.
eaten
Nope.
away the skin. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Not
Also,
those.
stuff.
big fish.
So I've preached some sermon series on Jonah. Most preachers have who've been doing this for a little bit. The first thing I'll say is we weren't there. We don't know. Full
fair.
stop.
Yeah.
Anyone who tries to claim this is literally what stop it. You don't know.
Yeah.
What we do know is what the Bible tells us. What does the Bible tell us? The Lord provided a fish, and that fish swallowed Jonah. Jonah spent 3 nights in the belly of this thing. So I believe, I'm kind of in the camp with scholars that would say, this is not a whale, this is not a fish, this is not some species that we could identify. It answers all those questions we have about what about the oxygen, what about... God provided a fish, some beast that this guy could be inside for 3 nights and come back out alive. So I believe in, Occam's razor. What's the simplest answer? The simplest answer is this probably was not an ordinary fish. And if God could provide the fish, God provided the air. Thus, he was able to breathe. So if I suspend what I know on this side of science, biological mind, and realize, well, what does the Bible actually tell us? It doesn't tell us it's a whale. It says the Lord provided a fish. So the Lord provided that solves all the questions I have about what was the deal with Jonah and this animal. This was supernatural, one-time event. God did this for him. So there you go. What happened to that whale afterwards? I don't know. He was beamed up by the men in black.
That's what I was thinking. I just had this picture.
Who knows?
This fish.
I'm
somewhere
also
off in
just, hey,
space.
maybe the question that I
But
should
it is
ask,
a great
which would be,
question.
like,
It's
the
like, it's a
question
cool
is,
question.
hey, where's that fish at? Like,
Yeah.
I want to
Yes.
know, like, hey, Lord, can you pull out the blueprint? What that fish look like?
Somewhere
I
off.
don't need the blueprint. Like, Lord, where's the fish?
He is-
Can I see the fish?
Yeah.
He's in the waters of the Eastern Mediterranean, somewhere off the coast of Syria,
Yeah.
waiting for someone else to swallow. I don't know.
guarded by the men in black.
So the beaches of North Carolina are safe.
For now, yes.
good.
Until
From that fish.
Until the Lord
Maybe.
tells you, Todd, go to this city, and
I
you
was
go the
about to
opposite
say,
direction.
yeah, once you disobey God,
then that
that's
fish might
But your
come looking for
chances
you.
with that fish are higher than with the creatures off the coast of North Carolina.
Yeah, because
that's fair.
Interesting.
we got them big bitey fish.
I mean, he was whole when he went and preached after
Yeah,
that. Like
we've got the bite you up, chew
That's-
kinds. Of course, North Carolina.
that part.
Yeah. Well, I do want to shout out. There was a bunch of people after last week that I mentioned, hey, Manna Mailbag, and we had a bunch of submissions as well as don't do it. Oh my gosh.
That's the man.
You
of
don't
mailbag.
hold the controls.
You can't encourage
Listen,
him. He only
when
gets his
you-
power once.
When you produce, you don't always push the button. And I
because
listen
I'm
for it.
considerate
He's-
of our viewers.
Because he's texting Chris nonsense and not
Okay.
paying attention
Look,
to the
I-
podcast.
Hey,
Well,
y'all
have
know
you
what my
guys
favorite?
know-
This is my favorite one. You know what, Bryson? What do you think my favorite button is? Don't do it. Hey, Bryson, can you talk?
I love it. It's
Yeah,
the Bryson
yeah.
mute button.
He's
This
muted.
feels good because he's muted me in mid.
Okay, this is great.
I was in good form, and then my mic went off once.
I can still yell.
How rude.
I know.
No, I was being a tool to him. I was not being nice. I deserve to be muted.
Anyway, what I was trying to say was thank you for your submissions to the Manna Mailbag. I think I have 4 in the chamber because we had some people from Spotify and then 3 comments from this past video. And keep submitting them. We can guarantee, hey, you will be featured on these questions. We have never skipped over one.
That's awesome.
Ever, for any reason. So if you have questions, we will try our best to give answers, even if it means like God made the fish.
Yeah.
Like that's completely the answer. But we thank you guys so much for watching. We enjoyed this episode. Thank you guys for constantly viewing, interacting with us. If you live in this area, in the Fayetteville, Fort Bragg area, we have Manna Church locations all around that we would love to see you. There's I'm at Hope Mills, Anna's at EP,
Executive
Carlo's
Place. Come on, see
Carlo's
us.
at Cliffdale. We have this whole crew. We would love to meet you in person. So to consider this your personal invitation. If you're not in this area, you can watch our services online on the YouTube channel. We love to see you there. But otherwise, God bless you. And until next time, let's change the world.
Check out our website, manna.church, to find ways you can get connected with our services, small groups, outreaches, and more.